Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out new episodes of the show every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. If you missed an episode or want to get more information about the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Nate and Ian from SolBid. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you guys on the show. I think what you guys are doing is actually really innovative and cool and kind of fascinating to me. But maybe before we kind of get into SolBid, let's get to know each one of you a little bit better. So, Nate, do you maybe want to start off and kind of give a bit of a background on yourself, kind of where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you got to SolBid?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so my name's Nate Raymond, and I hail from Western Massachusetts. Spent my time growing up in the Springfield area.
Okay.
As I got a little bit older, I was able to venture out, towards Boston, and then eventually found myself in West Palm Beach, Florida, where I opened up a mortgage company. That was really my intro into being an entrepreneur and in the startup scene, and it went really well for about a couple of years, and then we got taken out by the housing crash.
Right.
So, learned some hard knocks, but I'd say I learned a lot from that. From there, met my wife. We ended up moving to Colorado for about 5 years, where I spent my time doing corporate consulting work for Fortune 500 companies, mainly around the business development arena. And from there, I moved back, met up with Ian, and we partnered up to get SolBid going.
Sure. So, Ian, maybe do you want to give a bit of background on yourself?
Sure. So Nate and I have known each other for quite a long time. I come from an art background, and I jumped into tech when I went for my college degree. I went to the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and I started to shift my focus a little bit into starting a business and starting a tech company. And I've always had a strong passion for building things.
Okay.
And I've been working at various tech companies throughout New England and New York over the past few years. And I've been heavily involved with several startups and business accelerators.
Nice.
Within Western Massachusetts, where I'm from.
Okay.
So, I've just been working on SolBid and making that a reality and adding all my tech efforts into the product.
Sure. That's great. So before we kind of get into SolBid, I'm curious to know, you said you guys have known each other a long time. How did you guys meet?
It's actually a pretty good story. This is back in high school.
Okay.
And at that point in time, I decided I want to get my feet wet in the e-commerce space.
Gotcha.
So I didn't know the first thing about computers. I mean, I knew how to use, Microsoft Office, but I didn't know how to write HTML or JavaScript or anything to that extent, and I wanted a website. So me and Ian both have a mutual friend who introduced me to Ian. He's like, this is the guy that will build your website, and he can show you how to do everything that you need to know to get your business running. So met with Ian. He helped me get everything, going, and things went pretty well. It was a nice little hobby I had for a while. But that's really kind of how we got started, was on this business relationship. So, over the years, Ian and I have always been friends, but it was always friends that talked business. And that was always like the core topic of discussion every time we met up, and kind of hence how SolBid kind of came about.
Sure. So you guys are both co-founders of the company. So was there like a defining moment or meeting where you decided to kind of do this thing together?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Nate and I had been talking about, working on a project for quite a long time. And I had just been coming out of a startup. I had worked on a peer-to-peer skills and exchange network.
Okay.
And we tested out the idea, and it wasn't doing too well. We were too early to the market at one point. And I had been talking to Nate about working on something, and he and I got together over scotch, and we
Nice.
Started hammering out the ideas for SolBid.
Okay. No, very cool. So what exactly is SolBid, and why did you guys decide that there was kind of a hole in the market that you needed to kind of solve?
So Ian and I, like I said before, we like to top shop and, talk about the different things that we see going on in the industries. And both Ian and I have always had this kind of unique passion for renewable energy. It always seemed to come about in our conversations. And, we really noticed this huge boom in around 2014, early 2014, and we were talking about it, particularly in the residential sector, of how solar was just crushing it as an industry. And it was an exciting conversation, and we were looking at it, and we started doing a little digging and realized that, wow, commercial is really kind of lagging behind. It seemed like there was a lot of complexities in the commercial sector that were roadblocks that the residential sector really wasn't experiencing. So you come in and see larger solar companies coming out there and dominating this residential market while this commercial market was just kind of lagging behind. So really at that moment, it kind of hit us. It was like, well, with your skill set and my skill set, Ian, we can totally get in here and we can make this an easier way for businesses to go solar by kind of removing some of these complexities and these bottlenecks that we saw. So that was really the defining moment where we immediately jumped on it. And the way we jumped on it is, I think it was like not even a day after we came up with the idea of let's tackle this, we noticed there was a Clean Tech Northeast accelerator program that was coming out, and we had like 1 day left to apply to it. Nice. So we threw our application in, it was a complete hack. Got it in there, and we got accepted to their TDP program,
nice,
which was phenomenal. So yeah, we ended up spending the remainder of the year basically, building out the concept and basically building out the process and kind of mapping out how our software platform should work.
No, I love that. I think that's interesting to me. So you kind of obviously just mentioned kind of what exactly your target market is, but how do you actually work with, these companies to actually get kind of solar panels on their rooftops or wherever, I guess?
Sure. Yeah, so we kind of take a bit of a multi-pronged approach from a business development perspective. So from our initial outreach, we have some business development folks in-house that will reach out to businesses, and what we'll do is we'll do a little bit of background research on them. We'll look at the company's roof, make sure that it looks good for solar, and make sure that they're in an industry that would be using a lot of power for that type of building.
Sorry,
reach out to them.
Can I interrupt you for a sec? You made something, a point interesting. When you say like a roof that's made for, what does that mean? Like, what do you look for?
So there's really two things that we really like to look for. One is a big open space.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't have to be necessarily big, but open space is critical. There's some buildings or businesses that just have a roof that's just covered with HVAC equipment, or it just really doesn't have any room to put the panels. So you got to have priority as a place to put the solar panels.
Okay. Keep going then with your story. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So, and just to add to that, also was making sure there's no shading obstacles. So, like if you're in downtown Boston, for example, you might get completely outcasted by a massive building next to you. So, therefore, we look for those kinds of things.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so essentially, we have our direct business development channel, and then we also work with electrical contractors. So, one of the unique things about our business model is we essentially handle all of the desktop work of the project. And then what we'll end up doing is working in parallel with an electrical contractor who will physically install the components that we provide.
Okay.
And also pull the electrical permit for the project. The neat thing about that is it allows us to, one, operate on a national perspective. So we're not tied in locally based on licensure. So we don't have to worry about having a fleet of vehicles and electricians that work for us for every region that we work in. Secondly is we're providing work to existing electrical contractors that have been out there for a number of years, and they're very, very good at their trade. And we're leveraging their expertise and know-how to assist us in the implementation of these projects. And third, we actually work with them on a number of different levels to where not only are we looking to them to assist us in installing our projects, but we also look to them to provide projects for us.
Sure.
So we've found that a lot of these electrical contractors really don't want to be bothered with understanding the solar energy procurement and design and financing end of solar, which is really where we excel. So they've been leveraging us as a supplier, so to speak, who basically supplies the components and basically gives them a permit-ready package from an engineering perspective. They can just take that and run with it. So that's another avenue that we have been able to develop business. And then third, we look for channel partners like energy brokers or roofing companies or skylight companies, and companies that are out there talking to the same customers that we're talking to. We have found that these folks, quite a bit get asked about solar because it's this relatively within scope, even though they don't work on it. So we've been able to work with them as channel partners and generate business that way as well.
Got you. No, that's actually really interesting. So how does it kind of work? Like if I'm a contractor or I find a company that wants to do this, how do I kind of go about working with you guys? Because you kind of mentioned financing. Do I have to pay everything up front? How does that kind of work?
So I'll break this into two pieces. So first off, we'll basically handle everything in seamless. So the customer comes to us and here's an electric bill. We take care of the rest. We can provide 100% financing. We've found that a lot of companies like to either pay for the systems up front because they get a little better return. You're not paying that interest rate.
Right.
However, we can do zero down, 100% financing and get the project financed through one of our banking partners. The biggest key to this really is the software platform, which Ian can talk about. That's really his wheelhouse and his expertise, and that really what defines our business and what is an incredible tool that allows us to automate the majority of this process.
Sure. Okay, Ian, I'm curious to know, how do you kind of leverage like the software with kind of obviously the panels and kind of the business?
Okay, sure. Yes. So the platform is pretty cool. Picture Google Maps, right? Okay. So you start off with a sky or bird's eye view of your property.
Sure.
And you can basically draw around the perimeter of your property, and the system can go from there. It can figure out how many panels are needed within that space, if there are any obstructions in the way preventing optimal solar. And we also take in the utility data from the customer's utility bill, and we pipe that into the process at the same time. And what happens is the system will automatically build out a 25-year economic analysis showing them what they're going to be producing over a 25-year period, when their payback is, how many panels they're going to need. It will basically give you a complete breakdown of all the components that are needed to build this project, all under 2 minutes.
Very cool.
So it's rapid. It's convenient because people can go there to the link that we provide them. They can check it out. We can fine tune it. We can change the terms on the proposal. It's just really convenient, and at the same time, what I mentioned is for our end user. So if you're a customer and you want to come to SolBid.com and check out what solar can do for your business, we also have our in-house tool for our business development team and our channel partners that allows us and them to rapidly generate proposals. And you can design a solar system with our software and just really, really fast, unlike a lot of the other tools out there.
Okay. No, that's interesting to me. So I'm curious then to know or dive a little bit deeper in kind of the tech side of things. So I have this account, but are you pulling data into an interface from the actual panels as well, or are you planning on doing that?
Yeah.
Like, how does that kind of work?
Oh yeah, I'll let you in on a little bit of the secret sauce that we have cooking here.
Okay.
So we tie into several APIs out provided throughout the country.
Okay.
One is for rate information.
Okay.
The other is for sun exposure. And there's a couple other ones out there. And we take that data in. This is all real-time data that's provided by multiple sources. And we're able to figure out, based on the panel requirements or the system requirements that we're designing, exactly how much they're going to produce,
okay,
how much they're going to save, and build that into the analysis. We have the ability to toggle different components on and off. So if you wanted to use, let's say, a higher-end panel that's a well-known brand versus, an entry-level brand that just got on the market last month, we have the ability to toggle that information. So you
Oh,
can actually
interesting.
see not only the price fluctuation, but the efficiency output, and so forth.
Okay. Can you also predict like maintenance or if a panel's down?
So the panels and the inverters and most of the componentry comes with a 25-year warranty.
Okay, so it's pretty rare.
And basically, they're rated to last at least 25 years. That doesn't mean that they're going to stop working at year 25.
Sure.
They just it's just with, like, let's say solar panels, they have a glass top, and just like with your windshield, you can have pitting and wear after a period of time, and
Right.
it's just not going to be as efficient later on, but they can last a very, very long time.
Okay, interesting.
And that's with any solar panel.
Okay, interesting. So, and I don't know, maybe this is kind of a myth, but I've heard this before. Like, if a company installs kind of solar panels on their company, can they sell some of the energy that they're not using back to kind of a company and kind of generate revenue, or is that kind of like a myth around the whole thing?
So, essentially, you can allocate additional, they call it net metering credits,
Okay.
from they call it from a host account. So if you're basically the host of the solar power and you over generate net metering credits, you can sell those off or allocate those to another entity. It just has to be within your region.
Okay.
Now, but I can tell you that 99% of the time that we run into this, the building's area of roof
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily equate to enough additional credits to make it advantageous to move forward.
Gotcha.
Typically, most businesses are seeing anywhere between 25 and 75% production from a rooftop system. They're not usually exceeding 100%.
I got you. Okay. No, that.
But something I wanted to backtrack on a little
Sure.
bit. So to add to Ian's last statement, we do have the ability to monitor down to the module level
Okay.
within the platform. So it's not what it is. It's really a combination of both API and third-party equipment. So it depends on the equipment that we put in. So we specify equipment that comes with a monitoring package that we can wrap into the SolBid platform. So when you're in the SolBid.com platform, you can go ahead and you can view your energy production, and then it will also give you email alerts if something's down. So let's say, for some odd reason, an inverter went down.
Sure.
It would go ahead and would trigger a notification to your email, and you could also, in that platform, be able to see each module and how much power each one is producing.
Okay. Interesting. So, how often would you generally say people check this stuff? Is it once a month, once a quarter, or they just kind of wait for an alert, or how do you, like, it seems to me anyway, like I kind of set it up, and then if there's an alert or I need to deal with something, if it just sends me an email, then I'll go look. I might check it a couple times a year just out of curiosity because I'm kind of fascinated by it or whatnot, but it doesn't seem like a daily kind of thing, correct?
Yes, so solar is almost like a set it, forget it type of system. And the reason behind that is there's really no moving parts.
Okay.
There's no bearings that you got to grease. There's nothing that's going to break down over time. I mean, granted, you will get degradation over a long period of time, and eventually, over the course of time, your inverters are filled. But you're talking about a 25-year life cycle. So the inverters that we choose, the mounting systems that we choose, and the modules that we choose, we're very specific on the types that the brands that we go with, because we want to have those extended warranties.
Gotcha.
So we ensure that you're going to have something that's going to last. I mean, there is inverters out there that have 10-year warranties on them. We just do our best to ensure that, hey, if we're going to give you a 10-year warranted inverter, we're going to include in the price that extended warranty for the 25-year period to give the customer peace of mind.
Sure. Is the fact that you guys mentioned you use different kind of panels and whatnot, do you guys have to write different software depending on the actual hardware, or is it pretty similar?
So based on it's just a matter of like changing the value in like wattage and just the size of the panel.
Okay.
And it basically that value gets fed into the overall proposal mechanism.
Gotcha.
And then you can figure out like how everything's going to end up.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward.
Sure. And then do you guys like stock a bunch of kind of panels, or do you just kind of have a, if I'm an installer and I have a client, do you actually just send them to me? Do you just send them right to the building? Does it come through your warehouse, or do you kind of have like a drop ship, I guess is kind of the best way to put it?
Yeah, so we totally run a dropship
Okay.
type of setup, and so I can explain that to you fairly simply. So we work direct to manufacturer.
Okay.
So, for example, we would get direct from the manufacturer a truck shipment or allotment, and that would get sent to the job site. And prior to all the equipment being shipped to the job site, we would have a storage container put there.
Gotcha.
So you might have 2 or 3 storage containers, depending on the size of the job.
Sure.
And they would go ahead, and we would pay for liftgate service, and they would load the storage containers, and then each one of our systems comes with a keyed padlock
Okay.
that the installer has. So really, I mean, if you think about the way they get this, it's like they get a full package. It gets drop shipped, it gets tucked away in a box with a lock on it. They have the combo to the lock. They show up, they unlock it, and they install it.
Gotcha.
So we try to make it as easy as possible. Try to give them everything they need that's going to be on the solar side of things. They obviously will bring their own conduit, copper wire, etc.,
Sure.
which is just your typical, stuff you'd get down at the electric depot. Yeah, we make it as seamless and clean as possible.
Got you. So I'm curious then, you guys got through this kind of accelerator. Did you guys raise another round? Did you self-fund? Are you guys kind of walk me through kind of how you're funding all this, or are you guys kind of profitable yet, or where are you guys kind of at in that stage?
Yeah, so we in the very start of the business, we totally bootstrapped.
Okay.
Nothing but a credit card up until profitability.
Nice.
So I think it was more of me and Ian looked at it as a challenge.
Okay.
It's like let's see how far we can go, right? Until we need to get money. And we never ran into the situation where we actually needed to get third-party funding, which we it's almost like a pat ourselves in the back, but it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of stress.
Sure.
But we got where we're at. During the course of time, we did a couple business plan competitions, never took home any sizable grand prizes or anything. We actually had an interesting moment at one point where very early on, we were accepted as a semifinalist into the Miller Lite Tap the Future competition.
Nice.
And we got to do so cool. We got to do a pitch, and we ended up pitching Damon John, the gentleman from the Shark Tank.
Yeah, sure. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. It was it brought about a lot of confidence, and we spent some time in the back talking with him, and he was talking about, I love solar, and what you guys are doing is phenomenal, and it's almost like the kind of whisper, like, you guys are phenomenal, you guys should have taken this. But it was good. It was a lot of confidence got inspired from that, and we took that running to developing the platform, which it took some time, given the fact that we didn't have $1 million of seed funding, and
sure. No, sure.
we worked through it, we got it done, and I would say that if you compare the platform we got to some of the third-party apps that are out there right now, our blows it away, and we did it on Bootstrap, so we're pretty proud of ourselves for that.
Sure, and I think the thing that was interesting to me when we talked kind of a while ago is bootstrapping kind of a hardware software startup is obviously way more complicated and hard than if you're just doing one or the other, right? And so I think for me, it was cool to hear that you kind of did both, kind of bootstrap, right? And I think that's pretty cool. But I'm curious to know, and I get this question sometimes, is you guys have an advisory board, and how did you guys decide who you wanted on it, and kind of what do you recommend people look for when they're picking people for their advisory board?
So I'll split this question with Ian.
Sure.
So it really kind of came about. I mean, it was Ian's the one who brought this up.
Okay.
So we first started the business going, and we're making moves, and Ian's like, we really should look at getting an advisory board. And I was like, I agree with you. Let's do this. So the first person that we approached was actually our mentor from the Clean Tech
Nice.
Accelerator program, and he was all about it. He's like, yeah, I'm totally game on. Let's do this. So he was the first person we brought on, and And then Ian has some amazing contacts, where he brought on some gentlemen. I'll let him kind of fill in the rest here.
Yeah, so I had some contacts from my past with working with people in New York and New England. So I had a gentleman, his name's Ken Appleman. He was actually co-founder and CTO of About.com.
Okay,
and he also worked on the old Prodigy services way back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
So I've known him for a while, and he was like a mentor to me for a long period of time. So I thought he was a good fit for our board. And
Okay.
There was another gentleman who I had worked with from my previous venture, who was a great asset and mentor, and he seemed like a great fit to have on our team as well. And then the other gentleman that we have, I actually work with him on a regular with another project, and he just adds a lot of value to what we have on our team. And it's really about who you work well with. You want to look for like individual focuses. So each one of the individuals that we brought on the team has a specific like focus for what makes the company like a good group. So we look for like our tech guru, our financial guy, our legal counsel, and so forth. And we kind of brought them all together to get their like expertise in each one of those sections. But not everybody will have access to that pool of people.
Sure.
So it might be a little bit more difficult for, somebody that's just starting up to get a team of like Avengers together, basically.
Sure. No,
So
you mentioned then some of them were your mentors. How did you originally get them to mentor you? Because that's another question I get asked sometimes.
Okay, so two out of the group that we have, so Ken Appleman, I had basically worked with him on a startup called Music Link back in New York long ago, and he had advised me on certain like programming techniques and how to apply things and I had been talking to him for many years, kind of bouncing things off of him, and I just felt like he was a great asset to have. And the other gentleman, Tom Fox, from my previous venture I met him at the Valley Venture Mentors Accelerator, and he was a mentor for the startup that I had at that time. And he had some great feedback. He also has an entrepreneurial show where he interviews other startups.
Very cool.
And he was just a great guy to have on board and to kind of bounce ideas off of.
Okay. No, that makes sense. And
So,
it sounds like a lot of it's just kind of networking and working at different companies, right? And I think
yeah,
that makes
exactly
a lot of sense, right? I think that's actually really good advice. So are you guys just planning on kind of sticking in the commercial space? Are you going to maybe move into residential or kind of other kind of areas? I don't know. Like, where do you guys kind of see this going? Or are you going to stick just kind of in the commercial space?
So yeah, we were struggling with that very, very early on.
Okay.
And what we came to the decision was, and we're going to stick to it, which is we want to stay in the commercial space.
Gotcha.
And there's a couple of reasons for it. One, there's some big competitors in the residential space that really own the market. I mean, I think there's the obvious, right? You got NRG, Solar City, Vivint, etc.
Gotcha.
These are the people that they're getting flyers on their doors, they're getting knocks on their doors, they're in the mall. You see them everywhere, really.
Right.
You get your phones ringing off the hook from these guys. Nobody's doing that in the commercial space.
Got you.
Not necessarily those tactics, but what I mean by that is there's not the coverage in the commercial space as there is the residential space. And the reason being is the commercial space is just more complicated.
Sure.
You have longer project cycle times. You have different types of service voltages for the interconnection.
Okay.
So, you might find that each project might run a 208 three-phase. You might have a 480 volt three-phase. You might have a Y or a delta, which will, if it's a delta, you're going to need to have a special transformer that's going to be built for the project. You might actually need a transformer built for the project because you're running at 600 V. So these are the types of things from a project perspective that make it complicated. And then you have the finance issue. When you're looking at a residential homeowner, they have a credit score. Very, very easy to figure out whether or not someone's creditworthy. It's based on the credit score, based on an asset, and then you can go ahead and you can finance the project. In the commercial space, it's really more of a custom finance solution for each company or business.
Okay.
So you're getting 3 years worth of financials, you're reviewing that, and then you're taking that to determine what's the next step or what you need next to get the finance package put in place. So there's also there's a dearth of lenders out there that are financing the commercial rooftop space, unlike the residential space where people are getting energy efficiency home loans, Fannie Mae, FHA type loans that are very easy and accessible to capital. So we felt like commercial is really where we excel, not only because of the fact that there's not a lot of competition, but it's because of our background. So my lending company in West Palm Beach, we spend a lot of emphasis on commercial financing.
Right.
So I might be a bit of a unique person to be in this situation in solar because I have this finance background. So for me, I'm like, financing, that's a breeze. We can take care of that. And we did. So we put together a nice and easy package and a way to get things funded nice and quick.
Sure.
We found some fantastic banking partners that we can go ahead and we can do 100% financing or 90% financing and get these projects bankrolled fairly quickly. On the project side of things, through the platform and through our approach, we've been able to really clean that up and narrow it down. And by getting a certain set of strategic partners working for us from a manufacturing perspective, we can go ahead and we can push projects up fairly quickly. So we can see, depending on interconnection timelines, but anywhere between 90 to 120-day project turn times, which is fairly quick on the commercial side of things. For us, it's worth the time because the project sizes are much larger.
Sure.
So on a residential side, they might be pushing a 5 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt system size. Mm-hmm. We're pushing a 50 to 500 kilowatt size.
Okay, sure.
So, our projects are in the hundreds of thousands to millions.
Gotcha.
Whereas a residential side, you're talking a few grand.
Sure.
So for us, it's a really completely different animal, and you have to approach it completely differently. And with our skill set and with the way we built SolBid, it's really geared towards the commercial sector, and our game plan is to own it. So we want to be that one company that, when it comes to commercial solar, everybody knows that's the company that owns the sector.
Gotcha.
And that's what we're focused on.
Okay, no, that's great. That makes a lot of sense. Is there something like when you guys kind of approach a company that's maybe, obviously I think by now everybody's kind of heard of kind of solar as a thing and a viable option, but is there kind of common misconceptions about it or kind of hesitations that you guys hear kind of on a regular basis that are true or maybe not true that you maybe want to kind of quickly mention? Because I'm kind of curious to know if there's anything that, because you read stuff online sometimes and you're like, well, is that true or actually true or not true, or is there kind of common things that you could maybe prove or disprove?
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. The top three, I would say.
Okay.
I say the first one is fear of the solar energy system ruining the roof or causing leaks in the roof.
Got you.
So, for one, the majority of the systems that we do typically are ballast mounted, so there's no penetrations in the roof surface at all.
Okay.
So we use a roof-friendly ballast tray that basically everything connects to. The weight load is very low. They're a 10-degree tilt, so you don't have a lot of wind load to put on the system. So there's really no negative or ill effects to the roof membrane that happen. So, when you're looking at your slope roofs, yeah, you do have to secure those to the roof. You do have to penetrate the roof. However, the penetrations are completely sealed, just as if they were going to attach an HVAC system on the roof or anything else, which all these businesses already have.
Sure.
So it's really, these things are done by professionals. They're built by professional companies that, and most of the mounts are actually made by companies or designed by folks in the roofing industry anyways.
Gotcha.
So it's really no different than anything else if you're going to put on there. And to add to that, the funny thing is a lot of folks don't even realize it, but their roofs have penetrations in the roof itself.
Sure.
Like if you look at the way they do a flat roof system, they're going to roll out like a 4-foot wide roll of EPDM, and then they're going to mechanically attach that thing along the seam, and then they're going to hot weld the seam, and they're going to keep rolling it over. So it's really no different than that.
Sure.
So from that would be the biggest one. Number two, which is this is one that we find to be funny. Are they going to blow off my roof?
Oh, okay.
And,
interesting. Sure. Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, well, no. These solar energy panels these systems are all mounted together, and you could think of like a webbing format, or they're all interconnected.
Gotcha.
So you're not going to just have a single panel that's going to go flying off. On top of that, they're all attached securely, and they're designed by engineers, professional structural engineers. So these things, they're not going to go anywhere.
Sure.
And I guess the third thing that we hear, well, it's going to get cheaper tomorrow because we keep hearing about how the pricing keeps coming down. We're just going to wait. And while I would say that was true 5 years ago, we're at the point now where pricing really can't get any lower. I mean, margins are thin on the installation side, margins are thin on the manufacturing side. Unless there's some kind of crazy breakthrough on the way solar cells are manufactured, we're really down at the point now where I say pricing might get down a little bit, but not enough to outweigh the benefit of going today versus tomorrow from a return on investment perspective.
No,
No,
go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
So I was going to say, actually, what you'll find is that right now there's local state incentives that are available. Because solar has got to a point now where it's so inexpensive, those local incentives are going to start drying up. So if anything, if someone's looking to go solar, you're better off going today and using that state incentive if it's available to you, because it's not going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. But guys, we're coming to the end of the show, so let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about yourselves and SolBid online.
So you can go right to www.solbid.com, and on there you'll be able to find access to our customer-facing web platform. You'll find our contact us page, and there's a way to contact us that way as well.
Perfect, guys. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, guys. Okay, bye. Thanks for listening. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check them out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.